I had a second grader say, I hope my son dies. Yes, I had a second grader tell me that.
You're listening to a show for those who aren't afraid to admit that they don't know what the hell is going on. This is a safe space to ask any question you may have in order to keep learning and growing every day. Because the truth is, there's no way to know everything. So join me as I talk to people who know a little something about life. But there's a catch. I'll also know nothing about the questions I'm going to ask. Just like in school when there was a suggestion box that the teacher would read out loud, I'll be pulling up the questions without ever seeing them beforehand. Let's just say they should get very interesting. This is Trust Me, I Know Nothing. Wait, what? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Trust Me, I Know Nothing. This time, we're talking about teachers. We all know how underappreciated teachers can be. I mean, it's all over social media. How many times have we seen posts about how teachers make extraordinary efforts to give their students a proper education? Some take money out of their own paychecks just to buy supplies, while others have to buy food for kids that don't have anything to eat. And sometimes they even have to help their students with problems outside of the classroom. And all of this got even worse with the pandemic. I can't even begin to imagine how hard it was for teachers to do their job with everything that was going on. When you think about it, teachers really are the backbone of society. They are the people who spend the most time with kids, and their impact on students' life is immeasurable. So I wanted to talk to a couple of teachers to see what it's like to have such an important job. And also, I've always wondered what happened in the teacher's lounge, so I wanted the inside scoop. On this episode, I'm joined by two amazing teachers, Shyvanne Pulver and Madison Campbell. Shyvanne is a special ed teacher who creates amazing content about relationships, parenting, and other important topics. On her page, you're going to laugh with her videos, you're going to learn a lot about parenting, but what I like the most about her page is that you can always feel the love. And Madison is a second grade teacher who started her YouTube and Instagram pages to share her teaching journey, but she has slowly transformed them into a lifestyle page where she talks about everything she loves, like fashion, beauty, wellness, and of course, teaching. So I can't wait to hear all that they have to say. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot today. So here we go. Class is in session. Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of Trust Me, I Know Nothing. Today we are going to talk about teaching. I wanted to learn a little bit like the behind the scenes of teaching. So I figured I'd ask actual teachers about it. So today we are joined by Madison Campbell. She's a second grade teacher and an influencer. Her content is amazing. We're also joined by Shyvanne Pulver. She is a special ed seventh grade teacher and her content is also amazing. So make sure to check out all of her profiles. Hey guys, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to answer all of my crazy questions. How are you?
For inviting us.
Thank you so much for having us.
No, it's my pleasure. How are you guys today? How are things?
Doing good. It's been a long, crazy week. I mean, the week before holiday break, I'm sure you know, Shyvanne, it's like the craziest week, I think, of the whole year. So I'm pretty exhausted.
Yeah, same. Today was actually my last day. So just the kids are just ready to go. We're ready to go. We're ready for this 2-week break. So, and we all need it. We all need it.
I'm jealous that today was your last day. We go until next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're right. Like Christmas is right around the corner, so the break is here. Is it harder to get kids to focus like when the break is like a few days away?
Totally. I mean, it's like their stamina it's bad. Like they do not want to be there any more than we do. And so you can just tell. And I remember being a kid, I remember being so excited like around this time of year. So I get it. I know their energy's high, but yeah, it's pretty bad to get them to pay attention to anything.
Oh yeah. After coming from Thanksgiving, I just start a whole countdown because I know they're counting down. Well, I only have one student, so he's counting down and I'm counting down. So we just count down together.
You're ready for it. I love that. Okay. So I told you guys before we did this episode, I wanted to learn a little bit more about teaching and why someone would choose that as their career. And I really do believe that teachers are the most underappreciated people in the world, because they really are the backbone of society. You guys are, because you form every kid, like, and you send them out to the world. So, and I was talking to my friend about this the other day, because we were talking about how teachers aren't paid what they're supposed to get paid. And I asked, like, how did society determine that football players get paid millions and millions and millions, and then teachers don't get paid as much? And she was saying, no, it's because of the amount of revenue they generate. I'm like, okay, yeah, but they're forming kids, and these kids are going to go get jobs, and they're going to produce much more money. Like, that's how my mind works. So I don't know, maybe we can discuss that today. But so I really wanted to make an episode on teaching and highlight this. So if you guys are ready for it, I'm going to go to our first question of the day.
Okay.
Okay, this is a fun one. Do teachers have favorites?
I actually get asked this all the time. I swear it's like one of my most asked questions. Now, Shyvanne, I don't know about you, but like to me, I'm like a very honest person. Like obviously, yeah, like teachers, you're going to form, you know, like a bigger connection with some kids more than others. Like now I have a soft spot for like every student in my room. Obviously, like you care and love each and every one of them in their own ways. But yeah, teachers definitely have favorites.
I can definitely agree, because before I moved here to Texas and started middle school, I did elementary, and I do ED, which is emotional disturbed or emotional disabled children. And I want to say this in a nice, beautiful way, but
Just say it.
you can really form a connection with one, even though I have a connection with all the little ones that I did have. It was one out of particular that we just clicked, you know.
Yeah.
He knew what I needed him to do before he went off, and we were just always here, you know. So I would say yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so now the other side. Have you ever failed a kid because you didn't like them?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use my past experience, because I only have one student this year.
Yeah.
And I would say, I don't think I failed the student. It was just hard for him to understand me and me to understand him.
Yeah.
And then me to understand the parent, because I feel like the parent wasn't doing what we needed them to do to help the child. So
Yeah.
I would feel like the child did slip through the cracks, but I pray he's officially in 5th grade now, but I pray he's in a better path than what I had him in 3rd grade. So
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously I teach elementary, I teach 2nd grade, so we're not allowed to fail students anymore.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. That's a whole other topic, but we definitely can't really hold kids back anymore. But I will say, I mean, it is hard whenever there's that kid that you just don't vibe with, you don't click with, and like kids can be mean, even in 2nd grade. Like I'm sure in 7th grade, it can be bad, but it all starts in elementary school. And when you have that kid that's just nonstop mean to you, it can be really hard to kill them with kindness back. But I mean, you just have to remind yourself they're just kids, and any of those mean habits stem from something else, something from home, So you really have to find that inner patience sometimes with kids.
Yeah, because kids are sometimes they're just brutally honest, and then sometimes they're just mean, like you said.
Kids say the darnest things. They really do.
What is the wildest thing you've heard a kid say, or that they said to you in your classroom? Let's say,
there are some that are not even appropriate enough to even say on this podcast. The things that I have heard come out of children's mouths are absolutely insane.
Oh, you can say it. You can say it.
I really can't. It's that bad.
Really?
So I have a couple. I think it's kind of good for this. My 7th grader, he has like a hard life, and when he tells me about his life, he'll tell me, "Oh, well, my mother did this." I'm like, "Whoa, hold on. I don't need to know what your mom does in the streets. If you guys can get my drift here, I don't need to know what your mom do in the streets." But and then I had my younger ones. I had a 2nd grader say, "I hope my son dies." Yes, I had a 2nd grader tell me that. Mind you, I'm definitely dealing with the emotionally disturbed, disabled children. So they'll curse me out. I got called the B word, the F word. I got one kid that told me their father's gang is gonna come kill me and my husband. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm telling you. And then
What?
I love to do is kill kids with silence.
Yeah.
I stay quiet and I just shake my head. And then after that, I don't talk to them. And then they break down and cry because they expected a different reaction out of me.
Sure.
And I didn't give it to them. So now they're Miss Delva, because I get called Miss Delva, not my married name. Miss Delva, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, you got to think before you talk, you know?
Yeah.
It's all about that reaction. They just want that reaction out of you. And it's like you said, I swear I've been called like every name in the book, like names you would not believe, like the C word has come out of a 7-year-old's mouth to me.
I believe it.
And I
Wow.
mean, along with like that, which is like totally, inappropriate, there are hilarious things that kids will say, especially little kids, like second graders. Every morning during share time, I wish so badly I could have my friends and family there just to hear the things that I do, because kids just overshare. I mean, my kids' parents would be so embarrassed if they heard the stuff my kids say to me. I mean, they'll just talk about like their parents getting divorced, or, oh, my dad cheated on my mom, or we got kicked out of our house. And like they share all of this during morning share time as if it's like so casual. And I just sit there and listen and nod my head, because to them, that's life. That's just normal life for them. And they don't know any different. So yeah, it gets really interesting during share time.
You guys should do a podcast about that. That's
Yes,
amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, so you mentioned parents. How do you draw the line? Because obviously you're there to teach the kids and like educate them, but where do you draw the line to say this is not my place, this is your parents' place?
That is hard. And I would say that's one of the hardest parts of the job is like you leave them at the end of the day. You only get 7 to 8 hours with them a day. And, after that, they're on their own. And, I teach in a rougher area to where a lot of my kids, I don't know that they're going home to a safe home. I don't know that they get food and water and love whenever they go home. And so that can be really hard for me to not want to like control that part. But there comes a line, and you're right, like you have to draw that line, because at the end of the day, we can only do so much. We're there to teach them. Obviously, we're there to make them just feel safe while they're at school and like give them that safe space. But, there's a line, definitely.
In special ed, I'm lucky enough to co-teach with another teacher. And my partner said, I'm not a counselor. And I looked at him, I said, sadly, as teacher, when they're here with us, we're their teacher, we're their counselor, we're their guide, we're their parents, because sometimes some kids do need that, but I don't try to do the things that a parent would do at home. I can only do so much in, like Madison said, in that 7 to 8 hours. If they need that motherly kind of conversation, then I will definitely turn on and put my mom hat on, and then, give them that motherly advice other than me coming towards as a teacher, because sometimes in special ed, they need that. They really do. Especially with the student that I have now, it's hard not to today he got me to the point where I had to ignore him for the rest of the day. But in deep down inside, I still pulled out and gave him a Christmas gift after he just cursed me out, because I know when he goes home, he's not going home to a place where there's going to be gifts under the tree. He's not going home where he's going to get a warm meal. But I do these things because I want him to know that I do love you. I'm mad at you, but I love you, because he thinks when I yell at him, I hate him. I say, no, I might not like you right now, but I will never hate you, and I will always love you. I might not like you, but I will love you. So I feel like I have to give him that love, because his mom's not in his life. He doesn't know who his dad is. So it's like some of these kids, you do take some of their stuff home, and it's hard not to take it home with you when you know their whole background story.
Yeah.
I mean, really, some of these kids, you might be the only hug that they get that day, and the only I love you that they get that day. And so, I mean, that's why it's like, even if they like irritate you, like you said, it's like that is always in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking, wow, like this might be the last hug that they get,
Yeah.
especially when they go home over like a 2-week Christmas break,
Yeah.
They might not be going to celebrate for 2 weeks and have the best time ever. They may be going home to no presents or no big dinners, no hugs, no kisses. And so that's really hard.
And there's also those students that might have it all, but they don't have someone that listens to them.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it is good as a teacher, even though in the middle of your lesson, you listen to that student and you let them finish their thought, because maybe at home nobody listens to them or hears them out. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
I guess this takes me to my next question. It sounds like you want to be at least that one person in their life that they can count on.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from personal experience, students do realize that and they notice that. So I would like to flip it a little bit and ask you, did you ever have a teacher that did that for you, that changed your life in that way or in any way?
I would say, yeah, my high school. I have maybe like 3 high school teachers that till this day, if I go back to my high school,
Yeah.
they still work there, I want to go see them. I'm lucky enough to be friends with them on Facebook. But yeah, they changed my life. They changed my life, or not even changed my life, but they also became like really good people that I can go and talk to if I'm having any type of problems or issues, which is what sometimes a student needs, I might have a great life, but sometimes if I don't want to go home and ask my mom the question, I know I can go and ask Miss Costa the question. I know I can go and ask Miss Conley the question. Like, these are the people that I still remember. Here I am, 31. I still remember their names. I'm friends with them on Facebook. The funny thing is, just thinking about this, I remember when Adele did a performance and they brought her English teacher,
Yeah.
and how that English teacher changed and why she started songwriting. So some of this, especially Miss Costa, she made me fall in love with math.
Yeah.
I knew my strong point was math, but she made me fall in love with math. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. This is a great question, because I actually student taught with my very own 5th grade teacher, and she was like the sole reason and inspiration behind becoming a teacher. So it was very full circle for me to be able to co-teach alongside her. And not only did I get to teach alongside her, but she was still in my exact same elementary school in my hometown and still in the exact same classroom. She had been
That's
there
so
for
cool.
15 years, or I think 18 years. And so being able to teach alongside her was so surreal, because she was my favorite teacher growing up. And whenever I made the choice to go into education, I knew I had this like nagging thought. I'm like, I need to student teach with Mrs. Holmes. And the second that I was able to reach out to her, she welcomed me in with open arms. And I was so happy that she was still teaching, because I wasn't sure. It had been, I think, 13 years since I was in 5th grade. So the fact she was still in the exact same classroom, she welcomed me with open arms, and I student taught alongside her from August through December of 2019. And so, I mean, that she was such a huge influence, and she impacted me in so many ways. It was amazing getting to learn from her. And I still think about her all the time.
So that's really cool that a teacher actually inspired you to become a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely did. And I mean, it wasn't even, academics, I feel like, are the least important thing that a teacher will do,
Yeah.
Even though we spend so much time on them. It's more so, I remember how she made me feel. And I know it's like so cheesy, but I just still remember to this day that she just had the most warm, comforting energy. And I just felt like she had very motherly energy.
Okay.
And she made me want to learn. She made me want to be in school. And so that was huge for me. And so I knew I wanted to be that for somebody. I wanted to be that warm energy that they got to see every single day coming into school. So more than anything, I think that's what inspired me.
That's so cool. What about you, Shyvanne? What inspired you to be a teacher?
What inspired me? I'll be very honest with you guys. I graduated high school at a very young age, and I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Like that was my
Okay.
dream. But I always found myself around children, after school program, being a track coach because I ran track. It wasn't until my husband got a job in South Carolina and I moved down there and I was like, what am I going to do in this small town because I come from a big city and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. So I started subbing, and subbing was where I was like, oh my God, I love this type of interaction. Like I got the sports side with the children. I got the after school where I got to play with them side of children, but actually teaching them or helping them educationally was like, okay, this is something that I think I might like. And that's when I decided to get my master's in special education.
Okay.
And I started to sub in special ed classrooms. And that's when I fell in love with those students that have disabilities, whether it's dyslexia, whether it's a learning disability that they have, whether they're ID and they just can't retain anything. It was that helping students finding their passion, whether it's not educational, but what can I do that I can still be a part of society? If I can't do basic math or I just can't get math, how can I be a part of society? And I love teaching kids. And this is the reason why I do ED is because I teach them life skills, teach them, to teach them basic skills that they'll take forever.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of teachers that kids remember, the ones that teach you something that goes beyond the classroom. Can you share an example of a time when a student was terrible in class, but wildly successful outside of the classroom? Because we know that sometimes the kids aren't great at certain subjects, but then they do incredible in life. So do you see that in your kids, even if they're really young?
Yeah, I have this student. I mean, he came to mind immediately, and I'll just say, he has a reputation in the school. So now he's in second grade. So this is the third year he's been in this school. And he's a tough one, tough to form connections with. He is not great in the classroom. He lacks respect, has problem with authority. But this year I found out that he has an incredible artistic ability.
Wow.
Just thrives. Like he is amazing. I saw him drawing and I was amazed. I had no idea. And he has a lot of goals and a lot of dreams. And so I kind of like latched onto that with him. And so now it's like every reward he gets some type of, he gets to do art or he gets to draw or paint or whatever that may be. And I just use that as like encouragement all the time because he has a really rough home life. And so I know that a lot of that, it's like he's going to follow in those footsteps of what he has grown up with. And I just hope and pray that he doesn't follow that same pattern. And so I would be surprised if he did not go into something that's like art related, if he didn't become an artist. And that just like gives me a little bit of hope for him because he's so talented and he's so passionate about it. No interest in school, reading, writing. He's very bright, but he has no interest in it, no interest in listening to adults or any, part of the classroom. But when it comes to art, that's his thing. That's right up his alley. So I just see a lot of like success for him in the future when it comes to that, even though school isn't necessarily his thing.
Now, since we're talking about kids having like different abilities and like special skills, if you had the chance to reform the curriculum, what classes do you think are required for kids today? Because I remember, I don't know what TV show it was, but the host said that we should include an empathy class in school and to teach kids about empathy and just basic human decency and stuff like that. So if you had a chance to create a class or two that you notice that kids are lacking today, what would it be?
I'll say I know that social emotional learning has become way more of a priority to teach nowadays than when I was in school. I'm sure they had something like it growing up, but I don't really remember a lot of importance of social emotional learning. And now we are required to teach all about our emotions, at least in elementary school. I'm not sure really where that ends in middle school and high school, but we're required to teach about emotions, how to handle your emotions, and all of that, which I love. I think kids need that more than ever nowadays. And so I would just, hope that that stays for future kids.
Yeah. That's exactly what I teach already, is their social emotional skills. Basically, why are you angry? Why are you upset? What made you angry? How can we fix this? That's what I already teach. When I do actually get a chance to leave my classroom and probably pop my head into a social studies classroom, general ed, with the kids now in this year, and especially in middle school, they're dealing with a lot. They're dealing with the fact that they actually ended school. So the eighth graders that I have now, or I see now, they're actually mentally sixth graders because of the pandemic held them back so much. So in middle school, you're seeing a lot of elementary behavior. Like they did not mature at all. So they need a lot of social emotional skills because they do not have it right now. I'm dealing with elementary kids in middle school.
Yeah. And I think, same goes for second graders. Since they, COVID, it's been the last 2 years. And so they have never had a normal school year. And so they're coming into second grade with the maturity of a kindergartner. And so I remember my first week this year, I was like, wow, I felt like a kindergarten teacher. They could not solve their own problems. They have not learned any problem solving skills at all since they have been home for 2 years. And so it was rough. And I will say they're making big strides. Like they're getting there, but it's been a tough year because of that reason.
So would you say that, well, I'm not going to ask if it was harder during the pandemic or now, but compared to this, what was like one of the toughest challenges to teach during the pandemic?
I don't know about you, Shyvanne. I don't know if you were virtual, but I know we were virtual for a very long time last year, over half the year, actually. And so, that kids, they don't learn as well, obviously, virtual. We can all say it. They don't learn as well. And obviously, attendance is a huge issue. Half my kids wouldn't show up. And so that's hard, to be a teacher, but not really feel like you're a teacher. So that was tough last year.
Last year, it was more of half the students were virtual and then half the students would actually come to school. But then I wouldn't see the same kids on like all the days. So it would switch. I would see A kids, B days. So it's like switched. I honestly would say teaching is harder after coming back from virtual. It's harder to teach them because they don't know any classroom etiquette or anything like that. They're just so used to seeing us like this on a screen.
Okay.
So, and then those that did come to school, it was only like 5 students in a room, so it's like the same 5 students that they did see. And they couldn't really eat together at lunch because they all had the mask on. They had to. So I would say the pandemic it was hard to get the technology part of it. But right now it's harder to teach the kids right now for me.
Definitely. No, definitely. I think they lack those social skills. I mean, like you said, it's like these kids, they haven't had any opportunities to socialize for the last 2 years. And as for second graders, in kindergarten and first grade, they learn so many important skills when it comes to socializing, how to handle yourself amongst a group of kids. I mean, obviously, there's a lot that goes on in social groups whenever you're, surrounded by peers all day, every day. A lot of problems can come up. And how do you solve these problems? And how do you deal with people that you maybe don't like or don't, click with as much? But kids, they were home with their mom all day for 2 years. They haven't had to deal with 20 other kids in a classroom. So now they're getting overwhelmed, overstimulated, being surrounded by so many people all day, every day. And so that's been, I empathize with them because I'm sure that's really hard for them.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
I like that never crossed my mind. I thought it would just click for them. But yeah, if you, for example, Madison, your kids have never been in an actual classroom like that other than kindergarten, where would they learn this? And Yeah, and well, for me also, like right now, I work remotely, so I think if I had to go back to an office space, it would be kind of hard to get used to it again. So I can only imagine for kids, it would be 10 times harder.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize that. Okay, next question. I've always wondered this. When you, as a teacher, walk into a classroom and you are in a bad mood, how do you turn that off? Or how do you manage that so it doesn't affect your class?
Yeah, that's so hard because I mean, they're just kids. So you don't want to walk in there and like rub your, negative energy on them. And
Yeah.
especially some of the kids who really don't need any more of that. And you just have to remember you might be the only smile they get that day, the only hug, the only warm energy. And so I think honestly, it's easy because kids are naturally lovable. At least I'll speak for my little kids. I'm not sure about middle school, but little kids are naturally very lovable. They naturally have a positive kind of energy to them. So if anything, they cheer me up when I walk in the room because I'm surrounded by 1,000 hugs the second I get in my room, the second they get in the room. And I mean, they just love their teacher so much. So I will say if I'm in a bad mood, they usually cheer me up right away. But, that can be hard whenever, because I know as a teacher, it's like you're never alone. You're constantly surrounded by 20 other kids. And so you don't get a lot of time to kind of just like sit with yourself and sit with your feelings. And you always have to put on a face and you always have to be high energy and go, go, go all day. And I think that's the number one reason why teachers are just so drained by the end of the day, because you have to be quote unquote on all day
Yeah.
long.
What about you, Shyvanne?
I guess I would say I do really well on masking, where I don't ever, once I leave my apartment, I try to leave all of my problems at the door. So once I step out of my door and I get into my car, I just play music and just get into a good mood before I even get to work. But I'm also lucky enough that I also have another person in the room. So if I need that moment, I already know there's another adult in the room that can greet, my one student or take him off the bus for me. So I always make sure I enter the classroom in a good mood, no matter what has happened, because you're driving to work, a person might cut me off and I'm like, oh my God. But I try so hard to leave everything before I even get into my car. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a lot of what you are trying to teach them, to control your emotions. So you have to lead by example.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And what would you say is the hardest part about teaching in general?
I would say right now, because I do have the older kids, I did teach elementary, and I did see it in a couple of the kids, is they're want to learn something. And I usually tell my kids, I'm like, I'm my age. You are the ones that's going to take care of me. And sometimes I stop and I get scared because some of these kids can care less about school. Yeah. In my school, on Monday when we came back from the weekend, there were 10 fights before lunch. And lunch starts at 11, 10 fights. So these kids come to school and they just want to handle their problems and they can care less. I was going to curse, but they can give two shits about education. And that's the part that scares me and makes me sad. And sometimes it deters me of wanting to continue in this career because I'm seeing more and more kids, and it might be the pandemic, that don't care about school. So wanting to teach them and them absorbing something that I said, they can care less. That's what I'm dealing with, and I find the hardest for me right now.
Oh, what about you, Madison?
Yeah, I agree. I think I heard someone say the other day that the old, do as I say, and just because I am your authority, you'll do as I say, is gone. And I couldn't agree more. And it is scary being a teacher nowadays because, there are a lot of kids, I'm sure, that respect authority, but there are a lot who don't. And a lot who they don't just take what adults say anymore as is. They need an answer, they need a reason. And most of the time it's, if they want to do it, they will do it. And that can be really hard. And people think teaching is like all sunshine and rainbows. It's just like cute little kids doing crafts all day. But I mean, there are a lot of kids that they come into school with a lot on their shoulders and they take it out on us. They take it out on their teachers. And so you have to deal with putting out fires left and right all day, every day. And it's exhausting.
Wow. I can only imagine just having to convince someone to learn is basically one of the hardest things you could do, because like, how do you force someone to open their mind? You can't do that.
Yes.
Wow.
The funny thing is that I have one student that I actually leave my classroom to go and help him in science, and he doesn't talk. He kind of just like stares at you with a blank stare. And today was his final, and it was literally pulling teeth for a whole hour, trying to get him to just answer questions. And it's sometimes, and that was frustrating for me, trying to get a child to just do their work. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is scary.
I mean, just to get them to try, just put in effort. The lack of effort is scary as a teacher and as just an adult, like you said, Shyvanne, like knowing these are the kids of our future. And it's like, we are doing all we can some days just to get them to put in a little bit of effort. And when we get nothing in return and we're getting like all of our energy, it can be really frustrating.
And how do you think we could, or where do you think this comes from? Is it something from home, and how open are parents to collaborating with you and like fixing this?
It definitely varies in different areas of where you teach, whether there's parent involvement or not. And I'm very jealous of schools that have like 100% parent involvement, because that's a huge procedure.
Wow.
She is so right. When you have that connection of school and home, that child will flourish.
Okay.
That child will flourish, and you know that child will be going in a great direction. When they are missing that piece of a parent, we can do so much, try to get them to that next stage if that parent is not present.
Wow. It just highlights the importance of being involved and just helping out your kid's teacher. So if you're listening, just help out your kid's teacher. So I want to get into a little behind the scenes questions. I've always wondered what happened inside the teacher's lounge. So first question is, do teachers have cliques like kids do?
100%.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And how does that work? Is it like the science teachers and the arts teachers? Yeah, really? Okay. Wow.
I would say, coming, because I came from both elementary and I see middle school. With the middle school, it's always the second grade teachers that hang around the second grade teachers. The fifth they always click up with their age group. That's what I remember in elementary. And for middle school, it's the subjects all hang out together. So math is with math, science with science. And we had a holiday party. And if you looked at the holiday party, it was literally the math table, the science table, the special ed table.
Wow.
Like we do click up because we're around each other a lot. And it's rare that we would kind of cross, but it's not like we don't, but it's just, I personally feel comfortable with people that I work with.
Okay. So. What about you, Madison? Do you see the cliques too?
Yeah, I noticed that right away. I think when I went into this field, but I mean, it makes sense. You're in a building with 80% women, I would say. And so there are going to be some cliques that form, not only like grade level, but I noticed just like age wise. So I think like some of the younger teachers, like the 20 to 25-year-olds hang out together, the 25 to 35 will hang out together, and the older teachers will hang out together, and you kind of just like click up. And it's always kind of funny just to like see the groups that do form. But I would say though, I feel really lucky. I'm at a school right now but there's not a lot of cliques. Like everyone kind of intermingles, especially at like staff parties and stuff. Like everybody kind of talks, which I really like. Like the fifth graders, second graders, and kindergartners will all be in like a group talking, which I don't see that very often. The school I was at before, it was not like that at all. So yeah, it just kind of depends, I think, on the environment.
Yeah. And is it Is there a lot of like gossiping going around with teachers?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't even deny that. I mean, I don't know if I'm blaming it on the women thing again or what it is. Maybe it's just the teacher. I don't know. Maybe teachers are just like gossipy people, but oh yeah. I mean, I think in any workspace though, there's gossip, there's cliques. I really don't think it's just teachers. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of gossiping. It's just like there's like heated debates at teacher meetings and staff meetings. It's actually kind of funny to attend, like all the tension between teachers and stuff.
Especially if you throw in Facebook, because you end up being Facebook friends. I try to stay about being away from Instagram friends with them, but I am Facebook. So it's like, even though I'm not in South Carolina, I'm still in the South Carolina drama with teachers.
Yeah.
So I text my friend. I'm like, oh my God, did you see what was on Facebook? And we literally, it's just like high school. I feel like all over again.
It is.
Comes to certain points.
And is it ever like, does it ever happen that you find out some juicy gossip about a student and you're like, oh my God, or like their parents, and you're like, oh my God, this kid said this about their parents?
All the time.
Yeah, I think teachers, I mean, honestly, teachers, we have each other because we understand what each other are going through. So, you know, obviously there's going to be a lot of venting and, you know, you have to be careful what you say about certain students, like personal information, but we will find our way around it to share, like, you'll never believe what happened in my room today, because it feels good to share with someone who gets it. You know, nobody gets it more than another fellow teacher.
Yeah. I like to use initials. So I might, I'd be like, oh, so MC, so they don't know.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. Another kind of BTS question. Are there really no stupid questions?
Don't know about you, Madison. But I with my kids, I always keep it real with them. And I don't ever say that their questions are stupid. I always say, do you want to go back and think about that? or do you want to rephrase that? Do you think that was a good question? I always say it like that. So then that would also help them to think about what they just said.
Yeah.
Maybe like, oh yeah, Miss Delva, never mind, Miss Delva. Walk away.
Yeah, I would say like in the primary age, kids just want to hear themselves talk. And so they just ask questions just to talk. And so a lot of times I just stare at them like, you did not just ask me that question. Or it's immediately after I just told them what to do. Like, what do we do? And I'm like, you just want like my attention right now. You know what I mean? It's like, and so they do the same thing. I'll look at them and be like, why don't you think about that? And they'll go, yeah, I'm going to think about that. I'm like, all right.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, this is a little pre-COVID question, I guess. Field trips. Do you love them or hate them?
Love them.
Yeah.
I love them. I love them because
Madison is saying no.
She probably has like 30 kids.
Okay.
I think field trips with a bunch of 7-year-olds are probably way worse than what you were experiencing.
Yeah, I think the most I have ever had in students is 10. I have only had 10. So like from 1 to 10, I don't have that many kids. So when I have a small group, field trips are like joy. Yeah. Like I'm able to actually see every single reaction out of all my students because it's a smaller group.
Okay.
That's the reason why. Now, if it was, me going on a field trip with the whole 2nd grade group, I'll be crying.
Yeah, I will say like the change in the routine is really nice. Just getting to do something outside of the classroom is nice, and getting to spend more quality time with the kids and kind of just getting to bond with them and just hang out as opposed to just like teaching. But yeah, we had this field trip where we went into the woods. We went to a wildlife center. Wow. I'm not kidding. We had to walk like a hike in the woods over a mile. And I had to watch 15 or 18 of my 7-year-olds in the woods. And it's like, maybe if they were older, it wouldn't have been so bad. But it's like when you have a bunch of babies that like need constant potty breaks, they need snacks, they cry, they don't like the cold weather, whatever it may be, it is miserable trying to go on a hike with a bunch of little kids. And so I still like think back, I'm like, that was like the worst idea for a field trip ever.
Wow. I used to love field trips actually, but yeah, 'cause I would only care about myself. Like I would
Yeah.
have to take care of the rest of the group. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
kids love field trips because it's
Yeah.
freedom for
Mhm.
them, but you don't realize what, it's not freedom for the teacher.
Yeah. It's
No.
different.
Mhm.
That's the reason why I left elementary, because not only are you a teacher, you have to be a mom. The
Yeah.
Mhm.
crying, the baby. That is the reason why I left and decided to do middle school.
Mhm.
And I realized how much I should have just stayed in elementary, because I'm still dealing with elementary. But
Yeah.
field trip with middle schoolers are a lot better because you're not dealing with so much of that babying.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is this something you wish you knew before you became a teacher, or what's something you wish you knew? Like, I wish someone would have told me this happened a lot.
I think it goes back to what we were just speaking about earlier about the behaviors and about how a lot of kids' angst and trauma from home life gets taken out on teachers.
Okay.
I was not made aware of that. I think teaching is very glamorized in college, and it's all about the fun lesson plans and how can you make learning super fun, which totally important. But unfortunately, that is not our entire job. It's only a very small part of it. And so I was not made aware of like the constant fires that you're putting out as a teacher. And I think if more teachers were made aware of that, then they honestly probably wouldn't go into the field.
Wow.
I would say paperwork. The paperwork. So when some people say, or oh, Shyvanne, you shouldn't be mad. You get 2 months off. And I'm like, the 2 months that I would be off, I literally do in the school year. I take work home with me. I stay later, and sometimes I don't get paid to stay until that time I'm in the building to get work done, especially with special ed. I have to do IEP meetings. I have to assess children. I have to do all this paperwork. It's not just teaching. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of seminars, or building, like teacher trainings you have to do. They don't tell you about that. When you watch TV, you're watching a teacher teach on the board and then the kids go. There's a lot more to than just having the kids in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when I think like of the like stereotypical teacher, I think of Miss Honey from Matilda. So like I guess like everyone wants to be that teacher.
Yeah.
No. But that doesn't really happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. Wow.
Most kids that I taught, they always say that I'm the mean one, because I am. I like to keep order. There'd be times like, oh, Miss W, you're so much fun. And then, but yesterday you were mean. So it's just like, I can still be a nice teacher, but you guys do things that I have to put my foot down.
You can't be that nice teacher 100% of the time. It's just, otherwise you will have no structure in your classroom at all.
The funny thing is the kids that I teach now, so I'll give you guys an example that I had today. My student had to take his math final, and I went over it, and then he got mad because I was correcting him. That's his problem. He doesn't like to be corrected. Okay. So this is why it's hard to teach him. And he just started yelling and screaming at me, and I got called all type of names. And it's just more like, this is the reason why I can't be nice to him, because he sees my niceness and then he automatically says, oh, you're weak.
Yeah.
Because I was being funny, because I was actually laughing and joking with him this morning. And then he saw my weakness as me being nice, and he just slipped in. So then I'm like, I can't be nice with you.
Yeah.
Because this is what you do when I'm nice.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, some kids need that constant structure. Like you cannot budge, or they will walk all over you. And it is hard whenever you want to joke around and be funny and lighthearted with them. But the second you do that, they'll start walking all over you. And that's whenever you realize it's like, wow, you can't just be Miss Honey all the time.
Yeah.
You have to lay down the law with kids.
What was the teacher that was her aunt? You gotta be that
Trunchbull, Miss Trunchbull. Wow. Well, I guess we can find a balance between those two.
Yeah, you have to find a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super funny. Well, now that we're talking about like difficult students, are you ever happy when a student is absent? You walk in, you didn't see them, and you're like, oh, thank God.
Oh, yeah. I think there's definitely a sense of relief whenever your hardest student isn't there because they'll bring just, a lot of frustration to your day. And it's
Okay.
amazing the difference in a classroom environment when one or two kids are gone. Maybe it's the one or two kids that are constantly picking or, bothering other students and kind of bringing that English to the classroom. And when they're gone, it can be like the most peaceful classroom in the world. So when you have one or two of those tough students gone, it can really change how your day goes. So I think any teacher would be lying if they said it didn't bring a little bit of relief when their tough students were there.
Yeah, that's just since all my kids are tough, but when I
Yeah.
have one that is the leader of the pack that might start something and sets all the kids off, when that one student's gone, it makes the day easier, But now when I only have one student, if he's gone, I have nothing to do for the day.
Oh,
And
okay.
literally just sit there and just plan.
Yeah. Wow. I've always wondered if I was that student for my teachers, because I did talk a lot in school. Like that was the only comment I always got. They were like, "You're very smart. You always get your job done, but you distract everyone. You talk." Like I had one teacher arrange the tables as a shoe horse, and then sit me in the middle, so I wouldn't talk with anyone. And I still talk to her. I was like, "That was your mistake," because now I have everyone around me, and I can talk to everyone. Like she didn't know what to do with me. So I do feel bad for teachers right now. Like if I had to deal with myself at that age, I would have just quit.
Hey, it's good that you recognize it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to give talkative students more responsibility.
Yeah.
So if they love to talk, I let them read. I say, you know what? I just gonna read today. And I just let the talkative student do more than any, and that kind of tires them out. So they won't talk.
That's really good advice. Do you guys notice when a student is trying to be a teacher's pet?
I think in the younger grade, I feel like they all want to be teacher's pet.
Yeah, they definitely do. And in second grade, I can, testify for that. They all want to be the teacher's pet. They all want the teacher's attention all the time. Even the students who are a little bit tougher, rough around the edges, you can tell they still want the teacher's attention. They just ask for it in more negative ways.
Okay.
And so at the end of the day, like all kids, especially younger kids, I mean, they just want that positive reinforcement from teachers. And yeah, I mean, there's still some kids that are a little much, like they need to be by you 24/7, and the other kids will notice that. But at the end of the day, all kids, they want to be with the teacher and the teacher's helper. Like we have a class job called the teacher's helper, and they all fight for it every month because they just want to help me. If I even say the words, I need someone, they all shoot their hand up. Like they want to run papers to the office. I'll just like give them a wet wipe and they'll fight over it because they want to wipe down the table. Like they just want to help. And so it's sweet though. Kids, they really just want to help. They just want to be useful.
And you spend most of the time of the day with these kids, and you are basically one of the most important adults in their life. What is something that you wish those kids take with them after being in your class?
I tell my kids all the time that, tomorrow's a new day, and, you always have the next day to make it right. And that's something we talk about in our classroom. And, that especially to my kids who might not make the best decisions in the classroom, I'm not sending you off. I'm not sending you out of my classroom. I'm not done with you. You can come back tomorrow and make better decisions tomorrow. Wow. You can always do better the next day, and that, making good decisions, that's a conscious decision you have to make every day. And so we just talk about that a lot, that making good decisions, being kind to others, that's something that you choose when you wake up. That's a decision you make. No one else makes that decision for you. You're responsible for yourself and nobody else. And so I just hope they take that with them, that it's on them if they want to, be a good person and be kind to others. And obviously we always talk about treating others the way you want to be treated. If you're kind to other people, they will be kind to you. I tell them all the time, no one wants to be mean to someone who's nice all the time. No one wants to bully someone who's kind to them. So I think those are the two biggest things we talk about a lot in our classroom.
Okay, I love those lessons. I think that applies to life in general. Like tomorrow is a new day and you get to make new decisions and like right your wrongs. I think that's an important thing to have in mind, no matter how old you are.
Mhm.
What about you, Shyvanne? What do you tell your students?
Every day is all about think before you talk. And I think that's what my one student struggles with is whatever comes to his mind, it just comes out. And we tell him all the time that you're trying to be funny, but you're coming off disrespectful.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to stop and think before you say something. I know sometimes it's hard because we as adults, we don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
But I want him to be conscious of his thoughts and how sometimes what he says can actually hurt somebody's feelings.
Okay,
so
yeah.
that's what I want him to take, because it is a challenge this year for me. But as long as I know that he can think before he talks, because he doesn't hurt somebody's feelings, is what I want him to work on or take from me.
Wow. That's also a lesson we could all learn, and especially in the age of social media, that we think that it's so easy to just post a comment and like no one's going to see it and no one's going to be affected by this. And like that, yeah, think before you talk and think before you type, I guess, would be the lesson here. Oh yeah, I can do this one. What is the funnest part about being a teacher, and also like your favorite part? Like it can be the same thing or two different things.
The day's never the same.
Yeah.
The day is never the same. Like when you think about some people that go and they sit in front of the computer at their corporate job, and our days are never the same. It's like you open a cookie box and you're finding the prize. That's how it is every day. It's never the same.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, Shyvanne, because I literally just got asked this question this morning on my Instagram, and my reply was that it's because every day is different. Mm-hmm. And I love that it's always interesting. It is not a boring job, I will say that. And so the fact that every day is different, I'm always up on my feet, always talking to people. I'm stimulated all day long, which can be exhausting, but it can also be a positive because you don't get bored. And the days go by very fast. Yeah. And so I think that is the best part about the job, is that it's always interesting.
Wow. And do you have any cool story, like a funny thing a kid said, or like something that you always sticks in the back of your mind, like, this is why I do this?
Honestly, something happens every single day where a student says something where it makes me smile, or just makes me kind of remember why I do this and why, or just at least remember why I love being around kids, if anything. And I need to start keeping a book of the things kids say, because I get asked this a lot, and like there's so many that I can't even like pinpoint one singular moment, but kids truly are very lovable little creatures, and they just want to love you, and they just want to be loved back. And so I think that's what I love most about kids. They make me feel loved. And obviously that's my job to make them feel loved too. But it's always reciprocated. And so I don't know, kids, they do say the darndest things, but they're love. They're all love, most of them, if not some of them. Those kids, they love in their own ways.
Okay. Yeah, I love that.
For me, it's one story would be going back to my South Carolina days. Is one student, I don't know what set him off, but something set him off where he just destroyed the whole classroom.
Wow.
In that classroom, we actually had a small little room that we actually put the kids in. It has a door and windows that they go into where they cannot harm themselves or other people. This is the type of kids that I work with. So he was in that room and he was literally banging and punching a window. So I went in there and I just looked at him, and I'm going to give him like a random name. I said, "Johnny, what is wrong? Like, look at me and tell me what is wrong." And he was just screaming, and then he started hitting me. It wasn't hard, but he started punching me, and I looked at him. I said, "Something is just going on. Something happened at home that set him off." And I broke down and I cried right in front of him. And he looked at me and he started crying too. So here we are, we're two people crying in this room together.
Yeah.
And he finally calmed down and went in the corner and sat down. And I left the room and I was able to close the door. And then a couple of minutes later, I went in there. I said, Johnny, are you ready to come out? He came out and completed his work. But by the end of the day, he literally wrote me a whole letter, just telling me, he was a third grader, how much he actually appreciates me.
Wow.
And from that day on, before he ultimately had to be set on homebound, anytime he came to my table, because it was like a whole group of us, because we had like 7 kids. So with these type of kids, you need to have as many adults in a room as you can.
Yeah.
He would always come to my table and he would actually make sure he does my work. So I was able to get him to do something where all the teachers were like, okay, well, if he's doing this for you, do this. And before he went on homebound, he actually went from being like a DF student to at least an AB student.
Wow.
So that made me realize that moment he saw that I cared about him. He knew, all right, Miss Delva cares, so I want to do something because I don't want to see Miss Delva cry. So that's when I know I can have an effect or an impact when a child actually sees that I care about them.
That's amazing. I love that. Because you do. Teachers are, like I've said this many times today, and I've always said this, teachers really do have a big impact on kids and the way they transform into adults, like at least as much as their parents. So I think I'm gonna leave it at this question. I'm not gonna ask more questions because I think this is the thing I want to leave people with, that teachers really do make a change, and I really appreciate you both and every teacher that does this. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this and sharing your experiences. I learned a lot about teaching. Definitely have a new appreciation for my teachers. I'm gonna write to the ones that I have on Facebook right now and be like, I'm so sorry I talk that much. And just thank you so much about this. And if you want to tell people where they can follow you and what kind of content they can see in your page, that would be amazing. Let's start with Madison.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say also thank you for having us on. I really do love that, teacher awareness, I feel like, has spread more than anything this year and within the last couple of years as the pandemic hit us and we had to go virtual. And I feel like people's minds are starting to be more open towards the struggles that teachers face on a daily basis. And it's people like you who, you ask to hear our voice and to hear our stories. That really helps. You guys can follow me on YouTube. It started definitely off as, I would say, more of my just sharing my teaching journey, but it's slowly transitioned more to lifestyle and just sharing everything I love: beauty, fashion, health, wellness, and a little bit of teaching in there as well. So you can follow me on YouTube at Madison Campbell, and my Instagram, same thing. It's Madison Lee, Leigh Campbell.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to put the links down here so everyone can follow Madison. And Shyvanne, please tell everyone where they can find you and what kind of content they're going to see there.
Yeah, I do a lot of lifestyle, relationship. I really don't talk about my career on my page. I definitely do more of a lifestyle, relationship, parenting stuff on there. But you guys can all follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm trying to recreate my YouTube channel, all on Pulver fam across the board.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and for teaching me so much today. And I guess we'll talk again soon, and have an amazing rest of your day.